Hello everyone, my name is Gio and this is Brew Better. For today, I'll be brewing a coffee from the Philippines. This coffee comes from Mount Apo and is produced by Cherry Cabanday with a processing called lactic fermentation. I will be using an April Brewer, a flatbed paper filter from Calita, 16 grams of coffee, pre-ground at 9 for EK and at 20 clicks using a comandante. I will be pouring 240 ml of water with a water temperature of 93 degrees Celsius and a water hardness of 110 ppm. My ratio is 1:15. This is the sweet spot for this coffee. Now, let's start brewing. My pouring structure will be 4 equal parts of 60 ml. So for my first pour, I will wet all the coffee grounds as fast as possible, 60 ml of water. Now let's wait up for about 30 seconds for our next pour. What's unique about lactic fermentation and how these farmers from Mount Apo started to apply this kind of technique is that when the coffee grows through an anaerobic fermentation, it is the breaking down of sugars and carbohydrates to turn into organic acid, to produce lactic acid, and at the same time, as you extend the fermentation, it will yield into the alcoholic stage. But for Cherry Cabanday and some farmers around that area, they used a lactic starter culture that they placed during the time that the coffee was fermented as full cherry inside a fermentation tank or a fermentation barrel. So that's why the lactic starter culture dominates the environment, and this is why the coffee tastes very creamy, and it also contributes on the coffee's complex acidity, which is similar to pineapple and reminiscent to a pear. So we've noticed that a few coffee farmers from Mount Apo within the BACOFA area, which is at the foothills of the Mount Apo, they are trying to apply this fermentation process because it tends to highlight a certain complexity that fits the variety that they have, at the same time that fits a terroir that they have. On the 2-minute mark, we'll pour the last 60 ml and wait for the water to extract. Now we're finished, and the brew time is about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So for the aroma of this coffee, you will be greeted with intense almonds, at the same time intense brown sugar, followed by an aroma similar to stewed apples. So when the coffee is hot, you get to enjoy a lot of intense red apples up front, followed by almonds at the back, and the acidity is similar to pear. As it cools, it becomes more balanced, the body becomes more creamy. You also get to have a more well-integrated acidity that is reminiscent to almonds together with red apples. So it's a very easy coffee, even if the processing method is a bit complicated or is a bit more experimental. The coffee is well balanced. So when Cherry Cabanday fermented this coffee, it didn't spend a long time in a fermentation tank. So it didn't develop very wild acidity and wild flavors. And this is a very good coffee that will help you start your morning. I hope that you get to try this coffee, and I always remember that the best coffee is a coffee that suits you. Feel free to share with us your experience with this coffee in the future or your recipe with this certain coffee. Cheers and don't stop brewing.